The first speaker is Caterina Tiezzi, and so welcome up to the podium.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming to this presentation. It is heartwarming to see you all here today. If you like mystery, shoes, and photography, then the next 20 minutes are going to be very good. Today, I'm supposed to present my thesis paper titled, "Where do mannequin legs go? The Multiple Lives of a Fashion Photograph." Instead, I want to tell you the story behind it. It all began 7 months ago at SFMOMA, when I saw Picturing Modernity. For those who haven't seen it and for those who have, Picturing Modernity is an ongoing exhibition where, cyclically, curators of the museum exhibit works from the photographic archives of SFMOMA. If you'll go there today, or more likely sometime Sunday afternoon, you'll find a lovely exhibition of American photography from the 1970s. When I saw it, they were displaying photographs related to the city of Paris. That's what I've been ever since. It is all this man and this picture's fault. The man, author of the picture, is the legendary French photographer Guy Bourdin. He came to fame in the 1970s for his quite provocative style made of playful compositions, daring crops, surrealist juxtapositions, and sinister narratives. This photograph is my 7-month-old obsession and the reason why I am here today. When I first met it, it was titled French Vogue. It was presented to me and the paying public in the shape of a single-panel chromogenic print, and it was displayed in a 3x2 feet sleek black frame at SFMOMA. French Vogue had arrived here in 2004 as a donation made by Guy Bourdin's estate. In the museum, I look at French Vogue with scholarly glasses on, and I see it from a distance, as gallery etiquette requires. Moreover, I experience this photograph as part of a larger narrative on French photography that the museum curator has authored and concocted. In the rooms occupied by Picturing Modernity, French Vogue hangs amid works that echo its themes. All around it, there are mannequin heads by Valérie Bourdin, mutilated bodies documented in Sophie Call's series Blind Girl, and fantastic scenarios by Bernard Faucon. Framed and behind glass, French Vogue is a surrealist dream that has become a nightmare. On a first impression, I see this picture as a dance of distinct signifiers moving haphazardly. As I spend time with it, however, I begin to see its reasons. As I focus on the different elements of the picture, I see their shadows crossing and their trajectories intertwining in a potential clash. The photograph then seems to propose that we not only live between defined oppositions, but that things, people, technologies, fashions, and values move at different paces, literally risking to run over one another. In this picture, objects from different eras live in the same constructed scene. I see the church in ruins on the same plane as cars, women, and shoes. This suggests to me the new fetishes have replaced ancient belief systems. Specifically, religion has collapsed and has been substituted by a cult of goods consumption. Because of the cryptic and seemingly unrelated elements that compose the picture, Bourdin's work suggests to me that my vision of reality is created by a mix of perspective and chance. I see in a narrow way and seldom notice fragments of parallel existences. Perception is a tunnel, a walled-up street where I encounter things by accident. Is it any wonder that I couldn't get this picture out of my head? Mesmerized by this photograph, I began researching it, looking everywhere I could to find more on it. At one point in my mad research, I found a lead. The photograph might have been published in Vogue. It turned out that the magazine in question was the 1979 September issue of Vogue Paris. I decided I needed to get my hands on a copy of that issue. I ordered it and camped out in front of my mailbox, waiting. When the packet arrived, I was very excited. I still remember my hands trembling trying to open the big cardboard box, careful not to damage the magazine inside and yet rushed by curiosity. When I finally opened it, a whiff of stale airspray scent came running from the pages. Intoxicated by that smell, I flipped to pages 66 and 67. Here is what I saw. What? Who flipped the image? Why is my beloved photograph an advertisement? And why do I have to look into an actual copy of Vogue Paris to find out about this? After the excitement of seeing that picture and discovering its true nature, I began looking at it critically. This wasn't the editorial I was expecting. Rather, an advertising spread badly printed on glossy pages. Cryptically titled Francine 475F. It was an ad for something called CJ. As it turns out, CJ stands for Charles Jourdan. This is the name of a shoe designer who founded an eponymous company in France back in 1919. Author John Peacock cites Jourdan's company as being the first to ever advertise in fashion magazines. When this ad was made, Jourdan was able to hire one of the best photographers for it, which tells about his status back then. Jourdan's name appears on the top left corner of the spread, establishing his authorship of the image. However, at the time Bourdin took this photo, he was showered with the creative liberty of being able to select models, clothes, scenery, and even layouts for his photographs for Vogue magazine, which makes it possible for him to have been the sole creator of the spread. Here, I consider Bourdin the sole author of the advertisement. What jumps to my attention is that this ad has been flipped on its axis. By instrumentalizing the image this way, Bourdin was able to put a visual stop sign in the magazine. As a reader of Vogue Paris, the last thing I expect to see in it is an entire page filled by an empty wall and a logo in a corner. By playing this trick on the viewer, Bourdin forces me to look on the opposite page. Here, I see the mannequin legs, and a second later, the shoes that are being advertised. Moments thereafter, I see the entire walled-up street, the space, the walls enclosed, and the car driving towards me. I take note of the fragments of visual information I have been given in this situation, these being both objects and text. Englobed in the tension of the space created in the spread and tangled in its mysteries, I become aware of the magazine I'm holding with my hands on its sides. I become aware of the approaching car. Suddenly, I'm not just holding a magazine, but the steering wheel of the car whose headlights are dangerously flashing on the mannequin's legs. I am closer than ever to getting a pair of shoes. For a moment, reality and fiction are blurred. As the reader and prospective buyer, I am in the movie directed by Guy Bourdin and sponsored by Charles Jourdan, making my part to create a fashionable way of living. I star in the film Francine, and I am part of the take 475F. Yet, Francine 475F might be the name of the shoes, or a clever title for the ad that with its intriguing nature makes it impossible to be overlooked. With a subtle work based on mystery and fantasy, the viewer becomes an active part of the advertisement. The strategy used here is rarely, if ever, attempted in the neighboring Vogue pages. In these advertisements, names are spelled out completely and in big bold letters, and products are shot in warm lights and plain backgrounds. Mystery is simply not evoked. By contrast, Bourdin's spread stands out so much that I won with the image, the product, but more importantly, the shoe company. In fact, I looked beyond this particular pair of shoes proposed in the ad and to the larger image of the fashionable women Charles Jourdan and Bourdin envision. This bewitching, bond-forming image would have had me running in a shopping frenzy to the Charles Jourdan store in 1979. 7 months ago, it has captured my attention at SFMOMA. Yet, there are many other places where it exercises its fascinating powers. Steering the cauldron of cyberspace, I have found this image again, in pixels. To do so, I ran a search for Bourdin, clicked a few more buttons, and slid over 50 other ads Bourdin made for Jourdan before I found it again. But when I did, I saw something else entirely. In this digital space, made by an anonymous author, the image is entitled Amidst a Sea of Works. In the website, the image is put in line with all of Bourdin's creations, the images of which have been generously provided by the artist estate. In fact, you can see it among collections of other ads Bourdin made for Jourdan, photographs for Vogue magazine, biographic notes, and some trivia. Here, the entitled image becomes just another picture. By virtue of its new medium, the digital interface of the internet space, the colors and format unchanged once more. And so is my experience of the image. On first impact, I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at. The car has the headlights on even if the sky is bright morning colored. The tree branches are of the same color of the brick walls and possibly, absurdly, of the same material. But more importantly, the shoes here have soles that appear to be of that red color today associated with Louboutin shoes. But I know these are Charles Jourdan design. Absurdity reigns. I almost suspect the mouse icon to transform from an arrow to a pointing end and reveal a video embedded in the image. I wish the image would animate and speak of the meaning and secrets of this work. But I stand disappointed, as none of this happens. What happens instead is that I pause. I think of the adventures this image has taken me on. I marvel at how plastic this image is and how well it lends itself to being recontextualized. I think at how freely this image becomes part of new stories and displays, molded to the wishes of new authors and diverse mediums, always with the approval and blessing of Bourdin's estate. I wonder why the estate is marketing an image that was originally part of an advertisement as a freestanding individual picture. This is particularly problematic in light of the fact that Bourdin, during his career, as often, if always, refused to exhibit his fashion photographs outside the magazines for which they were created. Books documenting his works report that, quote, having refused to exhibit or sell his fashion photographs as autonomous prints, Bourdin turned down offers to publish monographic studies of his work. The only book he ever made was a lingerie catalog for Bloomingdale's department store in 1976. At the height of his career, Bourdin's work was exclusively visible on the pages of fashion magazines. End quote. Having spent some time with this image, I now believe that the estate of Guy Bourdin is actively promoting this image as an artifact independent of a medium, history, and author's intentions, in order to have it conquering prestigious ground in culturally relevant landscapes. By disembodying the image from the magazine, I believe the estate has made it possible for it to enter the museum, and some might say become art by virtue of its placement. Moreover, it has allowed the image to be updated for digital life, thus no longer perishable or mortal as it would have been on paper. It will live forever as pixels in the realms of the cyberspace. The image, having lost its original purpose and right to visibility, is now ready for new games. In fact, this image continues to fascinate beyond the museum and the internet. It has found a place in the recently republished monograph by Alison Gingeras titled Guy Bourdin. As for public displays, Bourdin's work has been curated into a new exhibition at the Michael Hoppen Contemporary Gallery in London. I'm happy to report that this exhibition was so popular that its dates have been extended. Unfortunately for us, it closed 2 weeks ago. I ask you, what else can we expect from this image? I think that it is in order to have this image and all of Bourdin's fashion photograph recognized for their cultural value that the estate has allowed this image to become a plastic and malleable product. By so doing, it has allowed for collaborations and derivative creations to flourish. With this, they are actively breaking stereotypes and prejudice against the magazine format, fashion photography, and placement. These being, first and foremost, my own. I believe what the story of this image shows is that fashion advertising is slowly making its way to the echelon of the high cultural world. Yet to do so, it has to pay the toll of partiality, for not all of its story is being carried out to recontextualizations. I look forward to see what other lives this work will take. Where will these mannequin legs go next? And after that, will they ever stop on the pedestal of cultural acceptance? For me, they already have. Thank you.
You told a great story, by the way.
Thank you.
Exciting, I think, interesting and surprising for your audience. I have a problem with our acceptance of Bourdin's estate as marketing these images now. Don't you think he's upset somewhere, rolling over in his grave? Don't you think he's angry? Or did any of your research show that he might actually feel sort of, and maybe he was someone who was really humble, I don't know, and didn't want to promote his work, but isn't it possible he's really upset with what's happening to his images now? Not your conversation about it,
Right.
which was great, but the marketing of his images as something now for sale.
Well, my research shows that at the beginning he tried to exhibit his photographs in the museums and his work in general. He did some sculptures and drawings as well. But with time, he was really opposed to that. And I think that's because he studied and constructed the spread to work within the magazine. Like, you have to hold those images to get the best experience out of them. I think that's what he would say. So yeah, I think he might be really upset that I'm showing this here, like I am doing. But I think, you know, what the estate is trying to do is that publicize this work because it's so good. And I know I would be at loss if I didn't see this at SFMOMA. I would never have, you know, gone to the library here and just, you know, flip Vogue Paris. And so, yeah, he would probably be upset, but, you know, is that for the greater good, maybe? Yes?
Well, then what if the museum mounted the magazine to the wall instead?
You know, I wish they did that. I don't know if the museums know that this was part of a magazine and it was an advertisement. You know.
I think that was one of your key insights, is to actually hold it. And that actually underscores why it's important to actually see the object or the thing in the original state. So that was really a valuable insight.
Good. I mean, you know, if I could, I would just bring my copy to the museum and make an exhibition out of it. I might just do it, actually, you know. Got my hands in there. Like, yes?
Hi. Thank you so much for that. I love Keep Working On. I wanted to know if you have thought about or considered how this particular scenario of commercial photographer being kind of pulled into a fine art museum, a fine art context, how that lines up with the other kinds of shifts that have taken place over the last 25 years in photography, the marketplace, the economy of photographs.
I think it's, you know, if you refer to the museum accepting photographs, you know, in their galleries and, you know, photography becoming accepted as a fine art form. I think this is probably the next pushable step. You know, I see it in this line of acceptance for photography as an art form, as opposed to like just documentations that anyone can do with their phones. I think there's real value in it, and this might be just a painful and slow process, but hopefully we'll see more of this kind of works in a museum soon. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm just super impressed by your visual narrative. It's extremely polished and engaging.
Thank you for saying that.
I'm just a witness. That's just the truth. What can I do? I just wanted to go back to that question of the magazine layout and suggest that it might not be in its original state, since the print is since it rotates the axis of the print. That suggests to me that there's the hand of a designer involved, and where his name appears, where the logo appears. I think your analysis of why you have to be faced with that wall and how your eye moves across the spread is absolutely convincing. But I think there was another author involved in the visual construct that we encountered in the magazine. And that's, as you move forward on with this project, that's another thing that you might grapple with, is the kind of, not just the sort of hierarchical implications of display of a print that was essentially commissioned for a fashion spread, but the liberties that the manipulation of that print for the purposes of making an effective commercial statement. And in that, a small footnote about the commercial statement. Could you just repeat what you said about the 475F
Sure.
in short?
I said, as a reader and prospective buyer, I am in the movie directed by Bourdin and sponsored by Charles Jourdan, making my part to create a fashionable way of living. I star in the film Francine, and I am part of the take 475F. Yet Francine 475F might be the name of the shoes, or a clever title for the ad that with its intriguing nature makes it impossible to be overlooked.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I thought I remembered. I heard, for those of us who were alive before the euro was created, after a number signifies a price in francs. So 475 francs would have been the price
Of the shoes?
Of the shoe, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I didn't thought of that.
no, well, there's no reason you would, because F is now, you know, a vestigial signifier, monetary signifier. However, they might go back to it. You know, they do, right?
They do.
But that too, you know, when if you do go back and think about that commercial part, that commercial term in your paper, that's another little thing to factor in, and not to negate your experience of it either. I love the way that, I mean, you imagine that what that might mean with it as a title or as a take in a movie, but you could also say, you know, this could become our conversation, could become part of your, you know, next version of this narrative. Anyway.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for pointing that out. The money part, I didn't really thought of it. As for, you know, your point that there might be another author, here I've been debating this particular point in class many times. And based on my research, he was placed in a very special position, and he, like someone else that the names escape, of course. He had such liberty and was so well thought of and trusted within the magazine that I think here is not out of place to propose that. But I did thought of your point too.
So would he have been the one that proposed that it be flipped on its axis? Or
I think absolutely.
Image? That's what you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get out of that. Yes.
So I've been entrusted with asking a question from one of your advisors who unfortunately couldn't be here today. But it was about the different nature of the images and which one you feel is most successful, and is that even an issue here? Is that is quality here? How
Right.
is that coming into play? I don't know.
My gosh, I spent so much time with these three images that they all speak to me in a very personal, profound way. I think, though, that because of the medium that it is in, and because of the questions that it still raises, the one in the magazine, I'm still hooked on it. Can I spend another year on it? Sure. I'm really glad that I saw it at the museum, and I wouldn't have written any of this if I didn't see it there. So I'm really, really glad that the estate did that and the museum curator put it out. And then again, the internet image, anyone can see it. My parents in Italy can see it. And there's something of value in that too, especially today, I think.
Can I also follow up with a question of my own, which
Yeah,
is
of
how
course.
you found that image in the magazine? Was it just by the title, French Vogue, and then the date, and so you just decided to look through all the French Vogues?
Oh, that would have been fun. I found this really bad caption in a book that someone should correct as soon as possible. That said, this was titled. This was in French Vogue, which I think they thought it was the name of Vogue Paris, but it's not. The magazine is called Vogue Paris. And it cited pages 66 and 67. And so how I found it is that I went online and found this wonderful lady in Los Angeles that sells vintage magazines. I ordered it and literally camped out at, in front of my mailbox because I was so nervous because I spent like $100 on it. Like, oh my God, this is wrong. There's gonna be trouble, but it wasn't. It was part of an edge and part of, I don't know, faith, yes. But that's how I found it.
It's a lot of Francine's.
That is. That is. Yes.
First of all, I'd like to compliment you on your wonderful talk. And one of the things I enjoyed about it was your presentation of the detection angle of the mystery. So, as an angle of detection or mystery, I was kind of curious, what did his will say? And how were the trustees picked for his estate, and how have they evolved? Were they close associates and friends? Is his lawyer still alive? Is there some documentation you can get your hands on?
I'm afraid I don't know that part, and I've been trying to get in contact with the estate. What I can tell you is that, the estate is probably has this agenda of keeping his work alive, and so they kind of have to go against his wishes, no matter how strongly those were. And I think, as I said before, I don't think he would be happy, but we are. So, yes.
Do you think there's a commercial incentive on the part of the estate
To spread out his work?
circulate his work and
Well, I mean, yeah. Why, how are they gonna stay alive, in a sense? Like,
I just know sometimes the photographers' estates can be purchased, like Bernice Abbott, for example, her estate, Commerce Graphics. She created this thing called Commerce Graphics that was essentially a trust for her work, and after her death she had no heirs, and it was purchased, so it's actually a business
Oh.
of collecting copyright fund fees for reproducing the work. So, or sometimes it's a gallery that used to represent the person that, takes over that, as in the case of Felix Gonzalez Torres, and then so it'd be interesting to find out, like, who they are behind that name.
Yeah, I think
And
that's
how you
gonna.
can do that. Do you?
I think that's gonna become the next step of the work,
Yeah.
because it seems such an important part of it.
Okay, thank you so much.